What's up, everybody? Terrence here from Vidyard. Shout out to Sales Hacker for having myself and Matt Meyer on this webinar today. We are super excited to be here to talk a little bit about how you can write kick-ass emails, obviously using video. So just wanted to give ourselves an introduction and jump right into it. Like I said, my name is Terrence. I am the manager of sales development here at Vidyard. What that means is I lead a team of outbound business development reps and helping our team build pipeline for this guy over here.
Yeah, and I'm Matt Meyer here. I'm an account executive, and I'm here to talk about being right in the trenches, using video to essentially write some kick-ass emails. So let's get started.
That was our foghorn. We're super excited to get started here. Alrighty, so Matt, I'm going to put this number up on the webinar screen. Let me know if you know what it stands for. That's the number 20 billion. What does 20 billion stand for, Matt?
I don't know. I think it has to do something with videos.
You're completely wrong. It's not. Has nothing to do with anything about video. I'm just kidding. Yes, 20 billion. 20 billion videos are viewed online every single day, and this thing actually boggles my mind. So, Matt, I started at Vidyard about 3 years ago, and at the time when I made the decision to join the team, I had already thought the world had hit peak video capacity. I thought there's never going to be anything bigger than YouTube. Videos are already at the peak right now, so why not join a company that is at the peak of something? But then what I realized over the last 3 years was that video is we're only just scratching the surface right now with video communication. 20 billion videos are viewed online every single day across Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all over the web. Twitter, LinkedIn just launched video. Video is absolutely taking over everything that we do online today. And it's really changing the way we communicate. So, like, Matt, do you use video in your personal life to communicate with your friends and family?
Oh, all the time, and I always like to ask the question out there. I mean, when was the last time you guys watched a video? For me, I mean, I use it all over the place. I use it to communicate with my friends. I use it to kill time at work when I should be working maybe a little bit harder. And I also use it, to communicate with my family as we're all across the world, or even just in different workplaces. And it really helps trigger those emotions, whether you're sharing something funny, whether you're sharing something motivating, or maybe just sharing a highlight of one of your favorite sports team that played last night.
So, like, why do you turn to video when you're communicating with your friends and family?
The big thing is it's the best piece of communication besides being face-to-face.
Okay. So it's just a more engaging way to communicate. Like, instead of texting your friend and saying, hey, like, this funny thing happened to me, why not share them a Snapchat so they can see it almost in real time?
Oh, exactly, yeah. And it kind of goes to that funny statement around, I don't believe it unless I see it.
Gotcha. Awesome. And I think that's why, like, that attitude that we all have is, like, we want to share video content. Like I said earlier, LinkedIn has recently released video to their feed, and now we're seeing a lot of people adopt video on that platform, which is really why guys like Mark Zuckerberg, this guy, he founded a little company called Facebook, and Mark is really bullish on video. He's saying that it's basically the mega trend of the coming decade. He sees video will shift the way we communicated, just the way that mobile has shifted the way we communicated over the last 10 years. So 10 years ago, before the BlackBerry, before the smartphone, it was hard to get a hold of people. BlackBerry came out, and they grew, and they launched this thing called the smartphone and made it really easy for us to communicate with each other. Mark thinks that video is going to change the way that we communicate moving forward. And Matt, I guess it's kind of strange though, right? Like, we talked about how video is changing the way we behave in our consumer lives and our personal lives. Why is it that sales seems to be stuck in this world of automation, and why do you think it is that sales teams, like less than 1 in 3 sales teams, are using video in their sales process today?
Yeah, it's a great question, and really I think it's because it's easy. And also not just easy, but we're always being pressured to get our activities up, to send more emails, to make more phone calls, and by doing so, the way to get it up is through automation. And it seems to sometimes work, but it's not always the most effective way to reach your prospects. As the way I look at it is I can send out 1,000 emails, and maybe I get 10 to 50 responses, or can I send out 100 emails that are a little bit more personalized and get the same amount of responses?
Right. So there's a little bit of pressure from sales managers, from sales development managers. I'm guilty of it all the time. When times are tough, like I go to my team and, like, let's get the activity up, let's make more calls, let's send more emails. And that pressure can, force sales reps, individual contributors to, sit back and blast that email templates, because that's what's going to hit the dashboard today, right? You want to get that email count up. You want to get that call count up. So you sacrifice a little bit of personalization, you sacrifice a little bit of effort for instant gratification of seeing your email number go up for the day. And that's challenging, right? Because it's crazy that we're in this world where we share all this rich content in our personal lives, but in the B2B world, a lot of sales teams are stuck in the world of automation. But I understand, right? It's easy to automate these steps, and it's easy to get a bit lazy. But I guess what we're challenging people to do today is to think a little bit differently about how they're prospecting. And it's because of this automation that we're seeing our buyers be incredibly distracted, right? Mm-hmm. When I started off as a sales development rep a few years ago, I remember thinking, it's not that hard to get responses, right? Like even 3 years ago, it was a different game. Like I could hit my number by sending out some pretty terrible email. But now, 3 years later, it's impossible to get people's attention, right? They're super, super distracted. And what is that resulting in?
Well, I think it results in some of our least favorite words. Please delete us, or unsubscribe, or please don't contact me again, which is in fair a response. And sometimes when people are looking at the numbers, they may see those responses. But what we're looking to get are more positive responses. We don't care necessarily about the replies. We want to book more meetings. We want to progress deals along the journey. We essentially want to make an impact and continue to drive our value proposition.
Right. So deleting and unsubscribing, and I don't really blame buyers for being in this state of mind, right? There's so much garbage that gets sent out day in and day out because of SDRs or account executives that just want to hit a number, or they haven't gone through the right training, or they haven't been challenged to think differently. The buyers are super overwhelmed by the amount of stuff they're getting, and a lot of like really crappy email, right? Mm-hmm. So what we really want to talk about today to the Sales Hacker community is really how can you craft prospecting emails that are so good that your buyer actually blogs about you. So here's an example here of this LinkedIn article by Rachel from a company, I believe it was Magento. A BDR, not from Vidyard, a BDR from another company, had crafted a prospecting email to Rachel, and Rachel loved it so much and was so inspired by it that she wrote a blog about that email. Have you any of your emails been blogged about?
Not yet, but it's a goal for me this year. And with this, I mean, this is amazing because one of the biggest rejections we get is, I don't have time to look at this. Yeah. And it goes to show that people just have to be willing to make the time. And the fact that this prospect was willing to make the time to write an article is incredible. I've never seen this type of response before.
Right, and we're not saying that the emails that we're going to teach you how to craft today are, not every single one's going to be blogged about, but really this is something to strive towards. I've never had one of my emails blogged about, so that doesn't feel that great, but this person was able to get their email written about because this BDR, she had taken the time to craft an amazing email, creating the time to create, spoiler alert, a video, right? And that's really what we want to talk about is how can you use video in your prospecting efforts to ultimately enhance your existing outreach channels, right? And this is important. We don't want to get rid of email. We don't want to get rid of calling. Matt, like you probably still make cold calls every single day.
Oh, right? Yeah. Still call. I still email. I'm still social. Right. But I'm adding in something else now.
Right. You're adding video to enhance this channel. So can you give me an example of how video can impact the way you dial?
Absolutely, yeah. A big thing for me is I love to use it on one of my first touches. I also use it all the way throughout a sales cycle. But for today, the reason I use video is to try to build trust right off the bat. I want to make a video to show that I've done my homework, to show that this just isn't another canned video, and to show them that I know what I'm talking about, and I'm a thought leader, or maybe not a thought leader, but I wish I was. But just showing that I know what I'm talking about and that I've done my research.
The number one way you can become a thought leader is declare to the world that you're a thought leader. Anyways,
one day.
So using video to enhance your existing outreach channels, and that's really what we're going to cover today. Because really, does your buyer want to receive an email like this? And this is an actual email that I received actually from one of our competitors, so I was a little bit confused. But they sent me this email, batch and blast, obvious. This is the kind of stuff that makes me want to delete everything that comes in my inbox. Or do you think your buyer wants to receive an email like this?
I think there's a pretty obvious answer right here.
Right. So this is an email that our BDR Jared has sent out to a guy named Barry. And what we want to do to kind of set the stage here is show you an example of what this looks like. So Jared writes this email out, and the video, when Barry clicks play, this is what he receives.
Hey Barry, Jared here from Vidyard. Just want to put together a short video for you because I see you are leading the sales team over at Ping Identity, and you've done a lot for the organization throughout your tenure, so congratulations. Also noticed that you're managing, or leading a team of over 20 sellers and managers right now, including feed sales and inside sales. So I want to talk to you about leveraging video in your sales process. So what we're helping companies do is leverage this video messaging tool called Budit, and what it does, it allows you to create these one-to-one personalized videos of yourself or of your screen, send them out through email or different social channels, then track who's watching the videos and how long they're being watched for. So this is great for a number of reasons. First, it's going to help your team stand out from your competitors, also stand out in front of your prospects, because not many people are also going to be sending videos. And then by being able to track who's actually engaging with the content, you can then be more prioritized and targeted with your follow-up. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about your current sales process, the tools you have your team's using now, and see where video could potentially fit in. You can book some time with me through my calendar at the end of this video, and I'll look forward to learning a bit more.
Alrighty, so that's an email that Jared sent out to one of his prospective customers, Barry. Barry was so inspired by that prospecting email that he sent the following response. I'll read it out for the audience here. Jared, I get 50 of these emails a day. I delete 45 of them, and I respond to 0. You stood out. Congrats. Even better, you stood out using blah, blah, blah. Rob, Daniel, Derek, take a look at Jared's video and approach him below, and if you're interested, let him know. So here, Barry was super inspired by the email. He never responds to anything. He took the time to respond. This is a busy sales leader. He not only responded, but he CC'd 3 of his colleagues to get the conversation started, right? And all Jared was really doing, if you listen to that video, was being a little bit different than the rest, right? He was creating a message that was very similar to what he would otherwise leave on a voicemail, but sending it off in a meaningful way. So what we really want to do today is talk through these types of emails that you can send out, how you can use video in your emails to help you supercharge your efforts, book 3x more meetings, control your messaging, and shorten your sales cycle, whether you're SDR or an account executive, as long as you're doing some form of prospecting. Cool. So Matt, let's talk about, booking more meetings.
Absolutely, yeah. And this is what I went to before, and I always like to bring it back around booking more meetings, is it's all about that personal introduction. Showing that you're a human is a huge piece in selling. Is when you look back at Jared's intro email there, he didn't go too much into detail about really anything besides showing that he knows who you are, he knows why you should buy video, and why you should do it now. And he really kept it short and sweet. But when you think about it, if he had to write that in an email, that would have been a very long email that likely that individual, Barry, would never have responded to. So the key things around building those introductions is building trust, showing that you've done your homework, and humanizing those efforts. Is automation is great to an extent, but what we're really trying to do here is humanize sales. Now, I want to sort of dissect this email here. It's not perfect, and I know Jared perfectly, so he'd be okay with this. But a big thing here is it's short and sweet. And it's very hard in a text-based email to get a clear message across in a very short email. But what he did here is he's really standing out with that thumbnail. Now, a big thing I like to do here is we still will send over PDFs. We still will send over links. We still send over as much content as we have to help our marketing team and use all the content they're creating. But a big thing here is he says, I want you to watch this 45-second video. And the power of this is incredible because when you send over content, a lot of times people aren't going to view it because they don't know how much time they have to consume the material you want. And by stating how long you have, now Barry knows, okay, I have 45 seconds. Let me watch this. Whereas if you send over a long email and you have everything in there, they might think, oh, this is going to take me 5 minutes to dissect. Or if you send over a short email with no video in it, you may not get your clear value proposition across. Or it may sound too generic and everyone wants to feel like you made this for them. So being able to send a short email that's concise, which everyone's trying to do, add in that personal touch, stand out with that thumbnail, and show them it's only going to take them 45 seconds to understand what you do is very impactful.
Right, that's like the upfront contract, but in email form, right? Like when you get a prospect on the phone, you might ask them, do you have 5-10 minutes for us to chat about X, Y, and Z? In this case, like Jared is upfront contracting Barry and letting Barry know that he only has to invest the next 45 seconds of his life to just make a decision on whether yes or no on whatever Jared's selling.
Exactly.
Whatever Jared wants to do, whatever his ask is. I think the one last thing to point out here is that a lot of SDRs or account executives who try to using video for the first time in emails, they tend to make the mistake where they just include the video by itself. What you can see here is, like, when we talked about using video to enhance your message, Jared's still sending a bunch of text alongside the video, because ultimately what Jared's trying to do in this case is sell the click.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to sell the play. So in this case, he uses some value drivers, book more meetings, generate more pipeline, and stand out as the reason why Barry should click play. Because if Barry is a sales leader and he's thinking about these three things, then he's more likely to click play on this video.
And then in that video is where you can provide more context. Now, controlling your messaging. This is something huge for myself, whether it be from the day of prospecting to moving down that sales cycle, but it is always about controlling that message. So one of the things we always like to do is summarizing our calls. So whether it be getting off of that 5-minute cold call and they want you to send them more information, or maybe it's someone you call that doesn't have decision-making power, or it's after a discovery call from an account executive standpoint. It's all about summarizing it, because what happens a lot, or at least on my end through text, is your messaging can be lost in translation. And so by doing video, you're going to be able to help out in a couple of ways. First way is going to be about keeping it clear and concise. So by you reiterating what you spoke about, you're going to be able to do that in video. Not only are you going to be able to do that, you're going to be able to help that champion or arm that person to be able to deliver the same message when he or she is going up the hierarchy to other people in the business and sharing with their team. Is he doesn't or she doesn't have to go and re-pitch it. He has or she has a video that can do this for themselves. And that brings it to that enabling your champion standpoint. Is enabling your champion is so key. I'm not sure about all you individuals in the room here, but for some reason my decision makers always just can't make my meeting, and they tag it to somebody else. And they're in here, and for some reason it's always the same excuse. They got busy, they got called into another meeting. And so enabling your champion is so important because, again, text can be lost in translation. And your value proposition for, I'm sure, all of your companies is so enticing, but when you're giving it to someone else who doesn't work for you, it is so important to keep that messaging and relate it back to what they care about.
Right. So, and I know there's some questions on the line here. Just want to let everyone know that we'll be more than happy to answer questions at the end of the webinar. What we'll be doing is we'll be sending out personal video emails to anybody who has a question, answering questions with a video, and then that way you get your own personal response, and we can follow up and talk more about any questions you might have. So that point about enabling your champion, Matt. So, like, if you think back, right, like how long was your onboarding at Vidyard? It might have been like a couple weeks of boot camp, maybe 3 or 4 months of ramping up to your quota, but you spent all that time learning your messaging. So I always find it bizarre when we get off a cold call. If I'm an SDR and I cold call somebody and they're like, send me more information, and I'm just going to share it internally, that our follow-up email that we send out to that person, it's, you know, the expectation is that they are able to sell your products internally, but all they've heard about your company is 5 minutes worth of cold calling, like a 5-minute cold call. Right, but whereas the SDR has gone through 3 to 4 months of training to be able to deliver that value proposition, right? So when you summarize that call, or when you follow up with an email, it's including a video summarizing any talking points, any value props that are key to the account that you're trying to get in hold of, and then sending that off to the person you connected with on the phone so that they have the right material to take to their team.
And one last piece here, it's also about all that time and effort you probably put into researching that company. You don't want it to go to waste when you're just sending over generic content, but when you can use a video, you can continue to relate it back to all that homework you've done, relate it back to everything that individual said on the call, so when they watch it, they can have those aha moments, or maybe you might even tick off a couple of other things that may have not resonated right away on the phone.
Awesome. Cool. So let's talk about the last thing around how you can use video and email to kind of supercharge your email process today.
Awesome. Yeah, and this is probably my favorite area around it, is the engagement, where to prioritize, and those smooth handoffs. Now I'm going to start backwards here. And around the handoffs is, with Thanksgiving fast approaching us over there in the U.S., I'm sure you guys are going to be starting to book meetings, and they're going to be like, hey, I'm really interested, but can we meet right after Thanksgiving? And with that, sometimes things can get lost in translation. People get busy. People are backlogged after a week off. And with that, transitions are huge. So what we do here is we make videos sometimes with my SDR, or maybe I will do one on my own, just putting a face to the name and enabling them to show that, we're another human. We're not just another sales rep. We've done our homework. I like to outline an agenda or my goals that I want to do in it. So when they're watching it, they understand what they're getting into. It's just not another call where I'm going to have to reiterate. They see the connection that I've made with my sales development rep. The sales development rep reaffirms what I have. And then it goes into engagement. I then can know, are these people preparing for my call afters? I can see who's watched that content. And with that content, maybe even after a discovery call or after a 5-minute long cold call when I send over that content, I can understand who's watching, because as we all know, we have dozens of calls in a day. And sometimes we feel like the people who are nicest on the phone, as I'm Canadian, so sometimes I talk to very nice people on the phone. And also, sometimes we're chasing maybe that bigger logo. But what happens is when you follow up with generic content, you can't really understand how it's performing. Versus if you're sending over video content, you can start seeing who's watching. You can start seeing how long they're watching for. And by doing that, that helps me prioritize what deals to be focusing on during that experience. Is sometimes I may have a larger logo that I'd be like, oh, I would love this to get into this company. But they don't watch any of my content. And they may have just been nice to me on the phone, probably because they've done it in the past. Whereas another company maybe wasn't as high of a logo, but I start seeing video content or video engagement coming through my email like crazy. It's so powerful. One of the stories I always like to say here is I was prospecting an account, could never get a phone call with them, never responded to emails, but they kept watching my videos. And by doing that, I knew there was something there. It just wasn't the right timing. And by doing that, I kept following up. I wanted to make sure I was number one in their inbox. And I just kept seeing these video views coming in. And finally, now this is a picture-perfect story, finally their SVP contacted me and said, Matt, it's time for us to chat. And this is so powerful now because, as we all know, our buyers are doing so much more homework before they're willing to engage with the sales rep. And so by doing this, I knew they were doing their homework. When this individual came onto the call, he was already prepared, he already knew what he was wanting, and he wanted to pretty much dive right into the sales cycle. And so understanding this helps me prioritize my deals, which ultimately allows me to double down on the ones that I should be focusing on, which leads into shorter deal cycles.
Awesome. Just to summarize all that then, Matt, the first way that we're using video in our emails is to create smooth handoffs, right? Like SDR always has a problem where they book a meeting and the person on the other end no-shows, right? So using video to introduce your account executive in a human way to help ensure that your prospects actually show up to that discovery call. So one, you get the conversation started and the sales cycle kicked off, but two, as an SDR, you get paid. And then two, using insights, whether it's through like a tool like Yesware, SalesLoft, Outreach, Mixmax, whatever, to track link clicks. So if someone clicked the video link, or through a tool like Vidyard to track that engagement, you're able to decide which deals should I be spending my focus on, or if you're an SDR, which leads should I be following up with. And that's the power of using video in your prospecting efforts. So what we really want to do now at this point is to talk about how you get started with video and how you can create videos and start putting into your emails. So the first thing you want to think about in terms of video prospecting is you need a compelling thumbnail. So we put up this example here on the left and the right. The first thing is watch out for lighting. In this case, obviously on the right-hand side, you probably wouldn't click this because the BDR here is backlit. You can't see their face. You can't see what's on the whiteboard. You have no idea what's going on. Versus on the left side, all he's doing is not having his back to the window. It's a lot better lit, and you can actually see his face and him smiling. The cool thing here is he's using a whiteboard, and this is just one way of getting someone's attention. But if you write their name on that whiteboard, at least then Barry or Matt or whoever you're prospecting knows that the video was meant specifically for them. If instead you sent a video with just your face, like if they don't know who you are, they would likely not click, right? Just like think about it if you were to receive a video from a random stranger over text message or over WhatsApp or Messenger or whatever that might be, you probably wouldn't click play. But in this case, If you write their name on the whiteboard, they know it's for them, and you're going to be able to sell that click even further.
Everyone loves their name.
Yeah. This is another example of a thumbnail you can think of. So obviously, you can send out other types of videos, not just your face, not just a talking head video with the webcam. You can also record your screen. This is great for storytelling. In this case, a BDR, what they did in this case was they pulled up the prospect's LinkedIn profile, and they started typing Jared, click me, so that Jared would be enticed to actually click play and watch the video. Because at the end of the day, you just want them to hear your message. So using the prospect's LinkedIn profile as the thumbnail, also with the little Jared click me GIF here thing, Jared's gonna be a lot more compelled to click play and actually click through on the prospecting email.
This is also a great way for those who may not want to be on video right away. Yeah. Using the recording aspect in different tools is so impactful for you to get comfortable with your message as you start prospecting with video.
Right, so having the focus on the screen, it's good for storytelling. It doesn't put you front and center. It's a good place to get started. And a number of different tools can enable you to capture a screen like this. So the second tip we have with video prospecting is just be authentic. If you think back to that video we watched with Jarrett, he wasn't really doing anything super crazy, right? He was just talking to Barry like Barry was another human being in the room. He wasn't reading a script. He wasn't, following like a playbook necessarily. He was just speaking to Barry, whatever his message might be. I think this is a bit challenging to be authentic when you first get started with video, because a lot of us, we're inside sales reps. We're not used to putting ourselves on camera. We're used to being on the phone, but in this case, you got to start thinking about your body language. You got to think about the tone of voice. You got to think about, do you look enthusiastic, right? As long as you're just being yourself, don't overcomplicate the message. You don't need to write a bunch of scripts. Talk as if you would be talking on the phone, but just be a little bit more mindful of the fact that they can see you and that you should probably smile a bit more, even if it's quarter-end crunch.
Yeah, I'll always be smiling is a big thing for me. And a great way to start when trying to be authentic is keep it simple. A great way to start if you want to try a couple others, just do why you, why now, why us, and give it a go. As you get more comfortable, as you become more authentic of it, it's going to become like you're making a cold call. But it does take a little while there. And so that's why I say start simple and then have some fun with it.
Awesome. So last tip is use insights, right? So like we talked about a bit earlier, you can track the clicks on your links with tools like Outrage, SalesLoft, Yesware, so on and so forth. You can track, exactly who's engaging with your content. And with those insights, if you're an SDR, or you're an account executive, and someone has just watched your video that you've been prospecting, pick up that phone and give them a call right away. Because at that time, your brand, your message is top of mind, and treat it like a marketing qualified lead, right? The best practices around marketing qualified lead is calling within 5 minutes. So whenever we get a notification that someone's clicked our link or viewed our video, we're picking up that phone and giving them a call right away. And this is a great way for you to really prioritize your hot leads, follow up, like Matt said, with the ones that are leaning into your message and actually engaging with your content, and not waste your time with the ones that are not actually engaging with your content. Another example is Matt, so sometimes you prospect somebody and they don't respond or they don't watch your video. What's a good idea? What's something that you can do if someone hasn't clicked play?
Yeah, so a great way there is to sort of follow up. And one thing I like to do, and I know you'll have other ones, but I always sometimes like to joke, and because I haven't used the insights, what I will do is I might call them out on it and say, hey, did my video not entice you to follow up with me? That's one of my ways I do it. Now, there's a number of different selling strategies, and I like to have fun. So, Terrence, you're a very different person than I am, so I'd love to hear what you do. Yeah,
so here's an example of our playbook in terms of getting a hold of somebody who hasn't clicked play on our video. In this case, Amanda sent out this prospecting email to Kyle. It was, again, a short and sweet message. She made the thumbnail in this case the homepage of the person she's prospecting, so the company's homepage. Kyle didn't click play. He actually never watched the video. So Amanda, a few weeks later, actually followed up into the same email thread. And what she did here is she added additional value. She gave Kyle an exact reason why he should click play and tried to sell him on the click. So she understands that not everyone's going to have enough time to watch your prospecting video the second they receive it. People are busy. People have things going on. You never know if you're catching someone in the middle of something, but she's not afraid to follow up. And by following up, she's not just saying, hey, bump this email, I'm just floating this up to your top of your inbox, but instead she's writing additional value down as to why Kyle should actually click play and commit some time to watching that video, that 30-second video. So what's cool about this is she used the video once, didn't get it viewed. She gets to use it again, add additional value, not just circle back and bump the email to the top, but add value. And Kyle's response here was, you know, he watched the video and he was more than happy to connect, which is a pretty awesome response if you're an SDR.
This is like an amazing piece. Is when we bring it all the way back to the top there is, you know, people are still getting responses from that automation. But what we're looking for are those more positive responses. People aren't always ready when you send that video. Perfect example was Amanda's. But keeping on that, keeping persistence, but always adding value, always showing that you've done your homework is so vital to effective emails.
Awesome. So that kind of wraps up our webinar today. We want to keep it short and sweet. Matt, like 2 points you want to leave the audience with in terms of using video in their prospecting efforts?
Yeah, I would say keep it simple and have fun with it.
And for me, I would say if you're going to do one thing is just give it a shot. You know, elevate. As sales reps, you're hired because you can sell. You have a great personality. You know, you're able to articulate your message. So why not put that in video form? You know, lay back on the automation, the email templates, and actually do your job in an interesting way and make your job exciting. Anyways, Sales Hacker, thank you so much for having us today. We really enjoyed being on this webinar. Like I mentioned at the somewhere through the middle of the webinar, if you have any questions, we'll follow up with a personal video answering any of your questions you might have. If you do need to reach us, find us on LinkedIn or on Twitter, and we'd be more than happy to talk a little bit further about using video and prospecting.
Let's crush it at the end of the year here, guys.
Foghorn.